I'm the former longtime editor-in-chief of Backstage, producer of the Bistro Awards show, going into our 29th year. I'm talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon on Dave's Gone By on UNC Radio.
Shalom, shalom, oh, shalom, goddammit. This is Rabbi Sol Solomon, the founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And if you know me, and not a lot of people know me, probably to their benefit, but if you do know me, you know that I love the theater, and I love music, and I love cabaret, and I also love people who are involved with that whole business of creating art and entertainment, and also folks who report and help produce the art and entertainment that makes our lives so full and rich, and in my case sometimes miserable, but mostly full and rich. It is my pleasure and excitement to be speaking to someone who has been involved in theater for many, many years in both the backstage capacity, hint, hint, pun, pun, and also now in a producing capacity because she is the producer of the Bistro Awards, which honor cabaret, and she was also for many years the editor of Backstage magazine, the Actor's Bible. So she has so much to tell us of her experience and her life, and her name is Sherry Eaker. Welcome to the neighborhood, Sherry. Shalom.
Hello, shalom, Rabbi Sol. How are you?
Oh, I am fine. How are you? How are you feeling, darling?
I'm doing very well. Right now I'm in Florida, escaping the cold.
Oh, Florida.
York.
That we call Florida Jerusalem too. That's actually
it is. It's just lovely here. But I'm going back tomorrow.
Oh, well, back to New York, which is Jerusalem 3.5.
And I'm also going back so I can get going. Well, not that I've been wasting any time, but plunge ahead with the show that I'm producing March 4th.
What show are you producing on March 4th?
March 4th is the evening of our 29th annual Bistro Awards.
Now, what are the Bistro Awards?
The Bistro Awards honor artists in the cabaret, jazz, and comedy communities, mostly in New York. We focus on new talent, and we focus on veterans in the field at the same time.
Now, the Bistro, and we've had this controversy. Bistro.
I am the only one that says Bistro. Everyone else says Bistro.
Well,
but
yes.
It comes from when I was the editor of Backstage, and I started in 1977.
Mit Mazel.
We started a column in the paper because I saw all these new rooms opening up featuring singers, and I needed more coverage of it. So I hired a wonderful writer by the name of Bob Harrington, who started reviewing these club acts for me. His individual reviews slowly turned into a column called Bistro Bits. We never called it Bistro Bits. It was always Bistro Bits.
Because otherwise it would be Bistro Beats, and then you'd be making borscht, which is not a bad idea, actually.
That is exactly my point, yes.
So in your honor, we will call it Bistro Awards, and they are happening March 4th. Where are they happening?
At Gotham Comedy Club.
The Gotham Comedy Club. Now, did you start the Bistro Awards way back when? That was your baby?
Well, no, actually, Bob Harrington. Bob started writing for me. The column began in 1984. In the very beginning of 1985, January of 1985, his column focused on the outstanding achievement winners in the cabaret and comedy arenas in New York for the performance year 1984. That was the very first award. He basically gave out awards as part of his column in the paper.
Oh, that's clever.
He must have listed about 100 people in the paper.
Oh, my God.
And he did this for a couple of years. Now, I'm not quite sure whether you know, but my dad started Backstage. And then he sold the publication in 1986 to Billboard magazine.
Right.
So it came to be 1989. I said, you know what? We should do a formal presentation of this award show, because now we have like a bigger company to stand behind us. And we did. So our very first show was at 88th, a very well-known cabaret room where a lot of singers got their start in the Village on...
was it Bleecker or Thompson or...
88th was on West 10th Street,
West
right between...
9th and 11th.
Hudson and... I forgot already. Maybe Bleecker, but right off Hudson. And we did a couple of shows there. Then we moved on to the ball. Well, 88 doesn't exist anymore. And then
Right.
we moved on to the ballroom a couple of years later because we needed a larger space. That was a wonderful room. That's where a lot of cabaret artists also got their start and performed.
And that's why I wear large-size pants for ballroom. But
But the ballroom closed down, so the then owner of the ballroom said, why don't you go to this wonderful place uptown called the Supper Club on West 47th Street.
yes.
And we were at the Supper Club, which is this beautiful Art Deco ballroom. We were there for a good 7 or 8 years. And I don't know what happened. In 2002, I kind of said I can't do these big shows because I was still the editor of Backstage at the time. It was just too much for me to juggle everything all at once. So we kind of kept it low-key and did an invitation-only audience to the couple of shows. We did it in a smaller space. And then we started again at Gotham Comedy Club.
How long ago how many years have you been doing it at Gotham now?
This is our 7th year, I believe.
Oh, my gosh, so it's become a real tradition now at the Gotham Comedy Club to do
yes.
the Bistro Awards.
You know, the Gotham it's a 300-seat venue, but it still manages to maintain the intimacy of a small cabaret room. And that's what I like. I could surely move into a theater space, but it's the tables and the chairs and people being able to have their drinks in front of them and enjoy a show that makes up the atmosphere of a cabaret room.
Right, the Cabaret Awards should feel like a cabaret. That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Now, let us roll it back.
Our show this year, Rabbi.
Well, let's roll it back. We're talking, by the way, with Sherry Eaker, and we've been talking all about the awards and the Bistro and Bob Harrington, but you mentioned that your dad was the founder of Backstage, which was a newspaper, I guess, a broadsheet way back when. What gave him the idea?
A broadsheet, but in 1960, my dad and his partner, Alan Swerdling, were working for another show business or theater trade publication in the 50s.
It was literally called Show Business.
It was called Show Business, and that was a broadsheet from the very beginning. And then they left because they were not happy there, and they didn't have any inclination at all to start another trade paper. My father wanted to manage talent, and Alan wanted to direct. But their friends and people in the theater community were saying, we need another publication. We need another publication. So within 6 months, they each, now get this, Rabbi, you can appreciate this.
Okay.
They put in, I don't remember whether it was $250 each or $500
Whoa.
each. That was their initial capitalization. And they began Backstage. The first issue of Backstage came out on December 2nd or 1st in 1960. And there was a snowstorm that day. And the paper wasn't able with newspapers in the back of the car and distributed themselves. I mean, this is really grassroots publication, huh?
That's wonderful. By the way, do you have a copy framed or somewhere of that first issue? Did they save one?
Yes, I have. Yes, I do.
I mean, that should go into, I don't know, the Lincoln Center Archive Library or somewhere, or the Smithsonian, something.
Well, right now it's on the walls in my apartment, so...
Can you tell me what's on... You've probably seen it a zillion times then. What is on the cover of that very first issue of Backstage?
Oh, you're going to put a smile on your face. It was the announcement of the new Delacorte Theater that was going to be built in Central Park.
Wow. Wow. That's wonderful. Now, also, I don't want to tell any secrets. It's nobody's business how old you are, but you were alive when this first started. Do you have early memories of your dad working on the publication? Did he work from home? He had an office? Did he bring work home? Did he help?
I was young, yes, when he first began, but I just remember that he would come home very late on Wednesday nights, because Wednesday nights was the night at the printers.
Oh.
And they used linotype.
Linotype, there you go, yeah.
Linotype at the time. My father would walk in, which I thought was so late, at 10:30 at night. And his fingers, all his fingers were covered with the print from the type that they used, because any corrections they had to change it themselves. So, and my mother always kept a hot plate with his dinner waiting for him.
Oh.
Those were my early memories of the paper.
That's wonderful. Now let's move from your father to you for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And what were your aspirations when you were a kid and going to junior high school? What did you want to be?
I really didn't know. Theater was not on my mind, although I loved to dance, and I always took dance classes.
I will say this woman has a dancer's body. I think she weighs about 74 pounds, soaking wet,
No,
in a leotard.
a little heavier than that. But I always took dance classes, but I actually loved to draw and design. I mean, not when I was a kid, I always was my class artist. I loved drawing, I loved painting. And then when I got into, when I graduated with a degree in teaching, elementary education. I got my New York City license to teach, and I did teach school for a couple of years.
No, do you have any, do you have any up the down staircase kind of memories of teaching? Any anecdotes that spring to mind, funny, touching, horrible?
It was, I couldn't wait to get home. I taught in I remember after I graduated college, I went to Queens College. I got my master's degree at Queens College. I went to Europe, and I stayed there until about October. I came back, and this was early 70s. They needed teachers at that point, so I had absolutely no difficulty finding a job. So I got a job in the Bronx as the art teacher.
Okay.
The principal said to me, "Do you want to teach art or do you want to teach math?" I said, I'll teach art. It was, I was in a junior high school. I was only a couple of years older than some of my students. And it was very interesting because as tough as they were, some of the boys were like putty in my hands. They were so sweet to me. But the girls were tough.
No kidding.
After 5 years of teaching, I went, oh, this is it. This is it.
But did it occur to you to go into maybe commercial art, or women didn't do that back then in advertising? Or
No, I actually, while I was teaching, I took a summer or two, and I went to FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
And I took design courses. But but I don't think I was good enough for it. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So when I left teaching, I started looking for a job, and my father was instrumental in helping me setting up interviews for me with people in the field, because Backstage at that point had moved from being merely a theater paper. In the early 60s, TV commercial production became very big in New York. And the two my father and Alan, the two business partners, realized they were going to make more money out of pre- and post-production companies that were set up that made the commercials and the small little off-Broadway theaters that were around. So the whole front section of the paper was geared to TV commercial production. And the back of the paper, and the paper was only like 24 pages big at that point, the back of the paper was called the Legitimate Theater section. You love that?
Well, yes. That's what they used to call it, right?
Yeah.
Most of my children are legitimate, in fact.
Oh,
most.
I give you lots of mazel for that.
Thank you. So, but your father was setting up interviews with you with people in commercial production?
And people were saying to me, well, how come you don't work at Backstage? Rabbi, the thought never even occurred to me to work at Backstage. So a couple of months went by, and then in December of 76, we're going back many, many years. December of 76, my father called me and said, well, by now they increased their staff. It was Alan and my father, just the two of them in the very beginning. But now a number of years have passed by. There was someone who was the theater editor. And at that time, which is so different from now, at that time, this woman, her name was Charlotte Harmon, had to seek out the casting information. Now, casting information, now it's on websites everywhere, and in Backstage online and in print. But then they didn't have that. She actually would call producers' offices and find out what shows they were casting. So Charlotte Harmon was leaving the publication after 13 years as theater editor, and my father called me and said, would you like to be the theater editor of Backstage? Could you imagine that?
It's good to be the daughter. What can I tell you? It's a great phone call.
It was great. So my first day on the job was January 2nd, 1977.
Wow. And were you still doing what she had to do? Did you have to call casting directors?
No. After a while, it transitioned.
Right.
So...
Because even then, there was no email. There was no, fax machines.
No. I would go... We were in the Actors Equity Building at 165 West 46th or 1560 Broadway, same building. And Equity was on the Equity Lounge was on the second floor. So we were on the 7th floor, and I would just make a couple of trips a day down to Equity, find out what notices, because producers were, as part of their agreement and their contract with Actors Equity, they had to announce, at that point, Equity principal interviews and Equity principal auditions, EPIs and EPAs.
Well, and for the lay person, forgive me for using the word lay, what are the difference between interviews and auditions?
That doesn't even exist anymore, because there's just too many people. But at one time, they would interview the person before they would audition them.
And then, so in other words, if you passed the interview, then you could audition.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
Now it's like no time wasted. It's like, boom, give me, first...
8 bars.
Yes, 8 bars, excuse me.
So
that's it.
What were some of the challenges?
And then we Backstage set up the format Actually, Charlotte had begun the format, and then I tweaked it a bit. The format in which we would announce the equity principal interviews, the equity principal auditions, and also the equity chorus calls. Producers were required to hold separate chorus calls for the ensemble as apart from the principal players.
Right, yes. But this is all the listings part of the book. Were you instrumental in beefing up Backstage's having articles about acting and by actors?
That all came about. I mean, in the beginning, I didn't have that many pages to work with. Remember, I was the then editor of just the legitimate theater section. But slowly, over the years, I learned the business. And this is one example of learning on the job. I was always a good writer, but I learned the industry, and I learned how to write for the industry.
Well, what would be an example of writing for the industry in a way that they would appreciate that you wouldn't have known in the first year or two?
I geared my philosophy for Backstage was to create articles and features trying to help the performer understand the business better, the business of the business better. So I would take different, I would also enhance the features with listings. So, for example, there were lots of opportunities for performers on the shows that were performed on cruise lines.
True.
So I would, either I would write the article, or then slowly I built up a team of writers. In fact, your friend Dave was part of that team at one time.
And very proudly so. He was doing some reviews. You had theater reviews too.
We did a lot of theater reviews. So going back to the cruise line feature, I would, or one of my writers would, interview cruise line show producers, cruise line administrative people, cruise line performers, to find out what the experience is like performing on a cruise line so that the reader can learn what to expect. And I would also list all the cruise lines and the contact information, and the producers, which was a whole separate entity, producers of shows for cruise lines. So I spoon-fed information.
Which is exactly what...
It was the same thing for films that were filming in New York. I mean, the movie industry really picked up in the early 80s in New York. It became like a Hollywood on the Hudson, they would say. So I would, I built up kind of a source of contacts for myself, and I would contact people for a monthly article that I was writing. I would contact people and say, what's filming, who's the casting director, and what's coming into New York. And I would have a what's filming in New York list ready, that people, they could do the legwork on it, but I spoon-fed them the basic information for it.
And that's why actors would get up. What was it? Wednesday would come out. They would go right to the newsstands.
Thursday morning, late Wednesday night. Late Wednesday night.
Late Wednesday night it was, yeah. And it was once a week, Backstage. Now take us through, this is the growth of Backstage and how it morphed into this industry journal for actors and directors as well, and people who were involved in TV commercials and film and theater. And now everything's going great, and the internet comes along, which must have been a huge help at first. But how did you deal with the rise of information being available easily, quickly on the internet, and morphing Backstage from a print publication into making sure people would still subscribe?
Well, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
Because I'm from a different generation. That whole internet thing kind of scared me at first.
Sure.
Because I just didn't know how to deal with it. So the easy answer to that is I got people on my staff to do all that for me.
Okay.
I learned.
That's what management is.
Yes. And I really have to give, fast forwarding, I have to give the people who own Backstage now credit for being able to still maintain both the print publication and the on-site publication.
Yeah, I am surprised that they still maintain a hard copy. I mean, it's mostly about the articles now, to an extent, but I am surprised that they're still bothering to do that, since anybody who is going out there on auditions is going to be grabbing it off the internet first and foremost.
Well, of course. And, think of all the print magazines and papers that have gone by the wayside since the internet generation has come along.
But that's what I'm wondering, when you were still running the show and everything was transitioning to the internet, and you had to figure out, well, should we make the website subscription-based, or should it be free and we have ads instead?
That question was asked constantly.
Right, yeah.
Always feared, my whole staff feared that things would change.
Well, it did. It may have taken a long time, but it did.
But also change the staff around.
Oh, yeah. This is...
Now have an effect on the staff.
Now,
Everyone was fearful of their jobs. Everyone.
Well, and was there some attrition because I'm assuming newsstand went way down, and was there cutting?
Well, it was slow. I left in 2008. There were people that left before me, and right now there's only one person that I know that's left from my original staff. And he's now the national casting editor and one of the vice presidents of the new company that owns the publication.
But you don't sound bitter. When you left, was it somewhat amicable?
It was. I don't think this is really for radio publication, Rabbi.
Come on, let's get to the juicy stuff. You don't have to name names or use four-letter words, but five-letter words are fine.
It was fine when I left. And actually, it turned out to be the best thing for me.
Because?
There were new things that opened up for me that I had never imagined before. I got into, I had always kind of kept on the back burner the idea of producing. Yes, I was producing the Bistro Awards show, but it was Backstage that was really producing it in terms of giving me the capital for it. So as when I left Backstage, I just immersed myself in courses and seminars on producing.
Did you do the CTI commercial thing from the Broadway League?
I didn't do the 14-week, but I did I did the 3-day weekend, and I did many of their day classes or, full-day classes.
Well, can I ask, what can they teach you as far as beg for money? What do you learn from a producing class other than go to your dentist and beg?
And there's no easy answer to it. Everyone has their own approach. You can't say this is how you go about raising money. Actually, raising money is not my forte. It really isn't. I think the people who raise money the best are those who have more of a business background.
Okay.
Because they're used to it.
Your forte, I would guess, is organization?
And coming up with ideas.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, don't hide the creative end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right, okay. And you should be designing the covers of the Bistro stage bill, too.
Well, now I do that with my... I have 3 wonderful people in terms of designing.
Oh, wow.
The website. I have a web designer by the name of Bob Peterson. I have a wonderful web producer. He's a genius. His name is Patrick Harmon. And
wait, Harmon related to the Charlotte Harmon?
Oh, no relationship at all.
Okay.
But that's a good memory. Good memory.
Thank you.
And then I have someone who produces our show program, because we come out with a 60-some-odd page, all-color, beautiful show program for the Bistro Awards.
Sweet.
I mean, that goes along with my being editor of a magazine for so long. Of course I'm going to have a gorgeous show program with bios and stories.
Of course. Now, the Bistro Awards are once a year, so what have you produced in the past few years beyond that?
Well, the Bistro Awards keep me busy year-round.
Gewalt.
Because we have our newly designed website, and the Bistro Committee we're just starting to do features now, but they all review on the website. So I've never left being on top of having people review for us.
Good.
And we're still reviewing with that same principle that I've always said to the people who reviewed for Backstage for me. It's not the idea of getting people to go to the cabaret rooms or at Backstage to go to the theater, but it's for the performer to keep, to use the pull quotes, and to figure out if they didn't get a sensational review, because all our reviews are constructive criticism.
Right, well, you don't want to torpedo anybody, of course.
No, we would never do that. But we'll never say something didn't work. We'll say it in a way where they can see it for themselves.
Right, it's like what an improvement could be, or maybe the performer might think about trying ... You know, sort of a positivist.
But we don't give the answers out. We just make them look at it in a different way.
Okay.
And if you remember, I probably gave that spiel to you to Dave when he was reviewing. I'll ask Dave about that.
That's right. As I recall, I talked to him about this a while ago.
That's why I said you. That's right.
And he mentioned it was very difficult for him because he was very narrative-oriented. For him, a play was more all about the story and whether the playwright was telling it well. And the actors were almost secondary. And suddenly it was like, well, no, you have to mention every single actor on the stage. And it's like, I don't want to, but you know.
Oh, that's because Dave was a playwright as well.
Right.
So I had to make him realize the full scope of it rather than just narrowly looking at the production that he was seeing.
Now, we are talking with Sherry Eaker, who was the editor of Backstage from 1977 all the way up, you said, through what, 2008?
2008, yeah.
Wow, my God. What's one or two favorite memories of being there, of doing what you were doing?
I think in the very beginning, before the internet came on, it was coming up with ideas. And there is a relationship between producing a show, because one of the questions I didn't answer that you asked me, I still am working with writers and directors and developing scripts. And I produced a couple of staged readings of scripts that I really, really loved. And if I had more time, I would continue doing that. Producing on Broadway is a whole different ballgame.
Well,
that becomes more business and money-raising.
Have you tried to dip your toe in at all?
Have I tried what?
Have you tried to dip your toe into the Broadway pool at all, or
yes,
you just...
Yes, I became an investor, but...
Wait, which show?
Oh, let's not even talk about
all right,
that now.
Let me guess, it was Primate. No.
No, but it's just investing in a show is just not my cup of tea. I like the creative aspect of it. I like the formulating. It was the same thing. What I love about doing the stage readings was the same thrill that I got when creating a weekly magazine. I love talking to my writers, developing ideas with them. You know, here, I'd like to do an article on voice teachers. What can we do that's going to be different than what we've done before? coming up with the ideas, coming up with a specific angle, getting the photos, working with my artist to make sure that that feature was beautifully presented and laid out in the publication. That's what producing is for me about, taking a script, working with the playwright and saying, how can we improve the script? Just like I work with writers. Once they handed in their final copy, how do we make this final copy even better? And so I work with writers of scripts that way. And then actually all the production values, and which is similar to laying it out in the paper. So I love the coming up of ideas, and then the almost immediate gratification of seeing a paper which was 24, or maybe it was like 48 at the time, or 56, after a number of years, 56 pages that I was responsible for. 56 almost blank editorial pages. After 1 week, it was all filled up. It was out on the newsstand. That was very satisfying to me.
I can understand that. I mean, I can see the sense of pride and achievement. And what's wonderful is you can recreate it every single week. You start from zero, and then boom. Yeah, and you have to do it because the pages have to be filled. And then when you do it and it comes out and you hold it in your hands, it's like, whoa. Mm-hmm. I helped shape this. I didn't write it all myself, but it wouldn't be here if not for me. That's a major thing.
And the other highlights are people coming up to me still today saying, I got my first job from Backstage. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sure famous people tell you that all the time.
Yeah, the famous people that I meet, yes, or I'll read interviews that some of these famous people have had on various websites and publications, and they'll say, oh, I picked up the trade paper Backstage, Tommy Toon, Ben Vereen. I've read them claim Backstage to be their very first gig that they got in New York.
Yes, and it's true, and but now you've moved on from Backstage, Sherry Eaker, and you're doing the Bistro Awards. So a little bit of talk about cabaret and nightlife and things like that. Who are 3 cabaret artists that we might not have heard of, but that we should have? Since I assume you see cabaret all the time.
Should I? Well, we go beyond cabaret. We do.
Well, stand-up comedy also, and
jazz.
Jazz.
There's a lot of jazz, and there's a lot of fusion between cabaret and jazz, because jazz does recreate, the American popular songbook, and recreates it in a different way.
So maybe one comedian, one cabaret, solid cabaret.
David is one of my favorite comedians. And
Jim David, yes.
He did the Bistro Awards for many, many, many years in a row. I love Dee Dee Bridgewater, a jazz artist.
Right. We
gave her an award 2 years ago for outstanding jazz artistry. She's amazing. And then last year she came back to present the award that we gave to Maurice Hines for enduring artistry. We had Dee Dee present the award to him.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Harner is our host this year.
Oh, yes.
Taking a little bit, although Jim David will be back, he's doing some presentations as well. Jeff Harner is an all-round entertainer. He is just Mr. Showman. He's terrific.
Great. That's what I'm asking, is people who, the general public may not have heard of any of these people. Well, Deacon Bridgewater had been around for a while, but still, it's nice to. And is there one person who's a real up-and-comer in any of those?
Yes, actually, it's interesting that you asked that, because when my dad passed away, I wanted to name an award after him. So we created the Ira Eaker Special Achievement Award for for an up-and-coming performer, someone that we see really on the rise. So this year, the award is being presented to Nathan Chang, who actually has a show coming up at Don't Tell Mama. Well, he's had shows at Don't Tell Mama. He sings. He has a great personality. He dances, and I think he plays an instrument.
It's probably the marimba for some reason.
I don't think so. I think it's a trumpet or something.
Oh. Nathan Chang. Okay, well, it will be on the list.
Chang, and yes, you hear that name, and that's what his act is all about. Growing up with an Asian and growing up with one Asian and one Jewish parent.
Oh, there you go. Now, Sherry Eaker, you had two Jewish parents, and it's kind of you very sadly you lost your mom last year. You mentioned, and your dad a while back. How do you get over those things? It must. I mean, you were so close to your dad. You worked at his company. You took over.
Oh, you don't get over it. You don't go over it. You know, you just learn to live with it. It never goes away.
So,
with both of my parents.
What was your mom like? I mean, you've talked a bit about your dad. What was your mom like?
My father was a terrific business person. Very sharp, beautifully dressed all the time. My mom was Miss Personality. She was always big smile on her face, optimistic, and then in the later years, well, she always was a good dancer, my mom. Always. Well, like mother, like daughter. Well, there I'm saying I'm a good dancer, too.
Well, you were going to be.
Always a great dancer. She actually, not professional, but semi-professional tap dancer when she was younger. But loved music. And then in the later years, constantly singing. She couldn't remember what she had for breakfast in the morning, but if I said one word, it would spark a song out of her mouth. I mean, she was so funny. I would use the word imagination, and all of a sudden she would start singing imagination. In fact, on her stone, I wrote, always a song in her heart, she remains a song in our hearts. I thought that was so apt for her, so fitting for her.
And she was in her 90s, wasn't she, when she...
Close to 90. She was 88 when she passed.
Wow. But then I'm sure on some level, whenever you're doing what you're doing for Bistro or producing, sometimes something your dad would say will pop into your head, or you think of him, how he do this, and then you if you're walking along singing, suddenly you think, oh, I'm turning into my mom. Always in my memory.
Always when I have now that I can't reach out to my mom to ask her a question, because it was always my mother I would call first. I just, in my head, imagine what she would say. Here's the word again. I would imagine what she would say to me and follow through on it.
Wow. And were you raised somewhat Jewish, very Jewish, middle, what?
Tradition.
Tradition.
I didn't go to Hebrew school. Yes, I went to Hebrew school to wait for the boys to get out of their Hebrew classes. That's how I went to Hebrew school.
Oh.
But it's interesting. My mom we celebrated the holidays with her making a big meal for every holiday. We always gathered for the holidays.
This is it's about family. It's about family singing around at the table and arguing and fighting and spitting up food.
And my mother saying, "I cooked for hours. Tell me that you appreciate it."
Now let me ask, and I hope it's not too sensitive a question, but you're talking about family and a family of your own. Do you feel that maybe you traded career for having husband, kids, etc.?
Ooh, this is a sensitive question. Well, it's too late now for me to have any kids, but I always felt like Backstage was the child that I raised. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, well, and is that weird? Because now your Backstage is not a part of your life anymore. So you replaced it, I guess, with a bistro. Is that now your child in some way?
It's whatever I put my hands on becomes my child. You know,
well, that's Woody Allen's line.
I do.
No, I'm kidding. I don't know what that.
Wait, what were you going to say?
I said that's Woody Allen's line, but no,
What was Woody Allen's line? I don't know that.
No, I said whatever you put your hands on becomes.
Oh, oh God! You have a dirty mind, Rabbi.
Oh, of course I
Please.
do. Of course. Well, let me ask: Are you dating? Are you seeing anybody?
Rabbi.
What? I could get you a shotgun if you're interested. I don't know if you're, interested.
You're looking to make a shidduch now? Is that it?
Oh, I took a shidduch this morning. I had some Metamucil. It helped. All right, I'm just curious. I don't want to push you into an area that you're not comfortable talking about. But
if you can find a nice mate for me, because it's very difficult being in the industry that I'm in, and especially in New York, I'm wide open.
Oh, no, Mitmazel. Because, Sherry, I will tell our listeners, is a very vital, attractive woman, and you do have some diet things. You're very, very careful about what you eat.
I'm vegan.
You're vegan. You're not even vegetarian, you're vegan.
I'm vegan, yes, and proud of it. Exactly.
You eat twigs and rocks.
Than that, I mean, I did it in the beginning more for health reasons, but I've been, I would say since around 1980, when Backstage moved its office from the Equity Building to West 42nd Street between 8th and 9th, the old McGraw-Hill building.
Oh, wow.
There was a restaurant on the corner where I would have lunch every day. It was called Lois Lane's 9th and Natural. It was a health food restaurant, and I became very friendly. That's her name. Her name
was Lois Lane?
Lois Lane. And she became my mentor in kind of leading me in this very healthy way of living life.
And meat eventually became your kryptonite. You just said no.
In a way, I buy as much organic as I can, and I enjoy. It's not even a diet. It's just the way I eat right now.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, I think if people would see you, they would go, oh my God, because you're thin but not anorexic looking, and you have extraordinary amounts of energy. And meanwhile, I eat potato chips, I eat, meat, I eat anything that comes. If I go near a dumpster and it looks good, I'll start shoveling food into my mouth.
But it still has to be kosher, right?
Oh, absolutely. Oh. So, if I see a can of Coca-Cola that's half empty in the dumpster, I'll make sure that it's properly killed, that it wasn't in pain, and I'll drink it, of course.
Okay, as long as you're watching out for that, then I approve. Okay, fine.
Oh, speaking of eating strange things, we have to do this, and then it's the last little bit of embarrassment I will put you through, I promise.
Oh, no!
No, but this is one that you have to tell this story because Dave's wife has begged me to ask this of you. You probably don't even remember, but she loves this story. Because you, Dave, and you were all like a theater conference, and you were at a hotel, and you didn't have your contacts or your glasses or something like that. And you were in...
I don't wear contacts. Go ahead.
I don't know how this happened then, but you were in the bathroom, it was the morning, and you were going to brush your teeth.
Right.
And instead of the toothpaste, you reached for the wrong tube. Does this ring a bell at all?
That's not me.
Yes. Yet you reached in some weird, for some reason, there was a tube or a bottle of capsaicin.
Oh, God.
My wife remembers this very well because you remember you started brushing your teeth with capsaicin.
That would be very hot
Exactly. You thought fire was going to shoot out of your head.
Rabbi,
You don't remember this?
tell Dave and tell Joy so I don't have any recollection.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and here I wanted all the details, and you don't recall it.
I can't believe Dave told you that.
Well, I guess it's like childbirth. You know, it's so horribly painful, but 2 seconds after the baby's born, women forget. I guess with you were brushing your teeth, they're like, screaming fire coming out of your ears, and 10 seconds later...
No recollection of it. Oh my gosh, no. Maybe if they made a song out of it, I would have remembered it, but no, don't remember it all.
Well, I'm going to test your memory now with a very different kind of a question. In all the years that you were running Backstage, and even now that you're still involved in the theater, what are 2 or 3 of your very favorite shows that you ever saw on or off Broadway?
Oh my gosh. This is after my 40, 50 years of theater going.
There must have been a couple of really super special, extraordinary moments that stand out. Or not?
No. There were. Actually, way before I started working at Backstage, I saw Pippin with Ben Vereen. And it just... I had never seen choreography like that in my life. I had to go back again and see it.
Wow.
It was just extraordinary. It was small, intimate, and very, very sexy.
Well, that's Fosse. That was concentrating
that was my
on...
introduction to Fosse. Wow. Everything that he does is a masterpiece to me. I love all those moves.
And I might as well ask, did you see the new Pippin?
Yes, and I love that too, but for different reasons. You know, it doesn't have that intimate, sexy feel, but it's terrific in other ways.
That's what it's all about. It's about having different experiences every time. What's another show or two that just rocked your world at some point?
There's so many of them, darling. There's so many of them. You know what I loved that didn't get very good reviews?
Primate? No.
Coram Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
Dave saw that one. And some people really loved that show. Didn't really make much of an impression on him. Just a lot of high choir girl singing. That's all he remembered that he told me about. Why did you love that show so much?
I don't know. It just was just a wonderful show. I could even more easily talk about the shows this season because your question to me is making me dig and I'm not remembering. I am sure when we end this conversation I'm going to think of 20 shows that really rocked me, that knocked my socks off.
Well, how about what's your favorite show of the 2013-14 season so far?
I loved the Glow production of Twelfth Night.
Oh, everybody loves that, yes.
There was a show, phenomenal. And again, it was like I'd never seen the show before. It was a whole different interpretation. It was just the style of it that was so phenomenal. And it made anyone who's afraid to approach
Shakespeare. Yeah.
It was so approachable.
And this is, by the way, for people listening, this is...
hard language at all. There was a show earlier in the season at New York Theater Workshop called Fetch Clay, Make Man, about the unlikely but true relationship between Cassius Clay and Stephen Fetchit.
That's right. That was really good.
Oh, do you know, intermission, I saw Des Nakanoff there, the director of the show, and I'm not quite sure whether he knows my face or knows who I am, and I ran over to Tim and I said, this is so unprofessional, but I am loving every minute of the show. The production that was phenomenal. It was what it had to say, what it made me realize. What are some of the things I never thought about before, which is the point of theater. That's what theater is supposed to be doing. Roundabout did a production of The Winslow Boy that I thought was remarkable.
Oh, Dave.
I went in with a chip on my shoulder saying, oh my gosh, this is not going to be... and it was transformational.
I have to say, Dave saw that show on Broadway with Michael Kumsky was in there and Roger Reese, and he loved it.
He loved it too,
Loved it to pieces, yes. Yes, he thought it was just the most marvelous 2 hours and 45 minutes you could spend in the theater. Wonderful writing, terrific acting, just loved it.
Lawrence Radigan, and he wrote that, when was that, 1930s?
Probably. I don't...
Maybe. I don't want to say, I may be saying the wrong year, but it didn't seem dated at all, the show.
Absolutely. Well,
That's such a great production.
Now, speaking of dates, let's remind everybody
Going
that...
back to, dates for the Bistro Award. I thought you wanted to talk to me about my dating. No, dates of the Bistro Award.
Well, there's only one date. It's March 4th, and it's happening at...
March 4th at Gotham Comedy Club, which is in Chelsea on West 23rd Street, and the show begins at 6:30. And for more information, people can tune into our website at Bistro or Bistro, BistroAwards.com.
BistroAwards.com. Our last question for the delightful, the hilarious, the fun Sherry Eaker, and the very intelligent, by the way, Sherry Eaker. What's one or two of your favorite moments of the Bistro Awards over the past bunch of years?
Oh, there are so many.
I know.
Moments. The first one that comes to my mind, 2 years ago, it was the same year as Dee Dee Bridgewater. We gave an award, and I don't remember the exact name of the award, but we gave it to Melissa Manchester.
Oh, yeah.
And with our top honorees, we asked the recipient to choose someone who they would want to introduce them and present their award to them. And Melissa chose Marvin Hamlish.
Oh.
So Marvin Hamlish was there. He wasn't sitting in the audience. He waited in the so-called green room at Gotham and came upstairs. And he had to wait a little bit longer than usual. And when he got in, he said, gee, if I waited any longer, it would have been Yom Kippur already. So he broke the whole audience up. Not only did he introduce her, but he played for her while she sang. That was a classic moment.
That's a moment.
Remember. There was Cleo Lane and John Dankworth. That was in the Supper Club years. And the artist George Shearing presented an award to them. That was just tremendous.
Hey, silly question, but not that silly. Have you videotaped these awards? Do you videotape this one?
Interesting that you ask me that, because I just took all the yes.
Good.
Everything that I'm saying, yes. But I just took, because I'm starting to get my apartment ready for renovation.
McMazel.
I just took all the videos that we had from 80, that 90 show at 88. And I brought them to someone, and he converted it for me on a hard drive. So what I have to do now is sit down and watch hours and hours of these shows and pick out the highlights, and we will put it on our new website.
Oh, that's right. Now, are there any rights issues? Do you have to clear it with either Equity or Backstage, or doesn't? No, you have the rights to do whatever you want.
Yes. Well, I shouldn't say yes. You're bringing up a very... Equity, no. This is not under Equity jurisdiction.
And Mac would be happy.
No. Mac is completely different. Mac has nothing to do with it. MAC, for your audience, is the Manhattan Association of Cabarets and Clubs, of which I'm on the advisory board, and their show is coming up March 27th. But not very, very different from our show, and not even a competitor of ours, because whereas in the Bistro Awards I have a team of critics that choose our recipients, with MAC, it's the MAC members that vote. They have to enter an eligibility list, and then the MAC members vote on them. But go back to your original question. I wandered, Ralph.
Right, it was just about making sure that these are videotaped and that you can, even putting on...
I will inquire about that. Yeah. That's a good point.
It would be wonderful, not just highlights, but maybe if you have an entire show from 2000 or from 1990...
2.5, 3 hours.
Well, you can skim on the internet. You don't have to sit there the whole time. You can go to the bathroom, you can go buy some fudge, come back.
But I think one of the differences between audiences of our age, of our generation, if I can speak for you, and audiences today is everyone likes short.
My wife likes short. That's why my dear wife Miriam Libby married me.
Get away from that.
Okay. No, but you're right. Yeah, people just want to in and out, 3-minute clip, this, that, boom. I understand that. That's true.
But, for last year's show, and our winners last year were Lainey Kazan and Maurice Hines and Jennifer Lewis. All of that is on video, actually on a digital, and we are editing that down. It's going to be about 10 minutes max.
Okay. Give the people what they want.
Highlights of everyone performing, and I think that'll be the way we go, for future shows as well.
I just wonder if there should be like an archive for people who are really digging and whatever, because it's one thing to get the general audience and show them a highlight reel, and it's another to have history available. And,
we have history available with our reviews. But
yes.
Yes, we will have history available, but not 2 to 3 hour histories available for each show.
Well, I'm also thinking in terms of the drama desk. They're broadcast live on New York 1. I don't know if you ever have thought about trying to do an alliance there.
If you can make the shit out there for us, that would be great.
Oh, I don't know anybody at New York, but maybe Robert R. Bloomwood or somebody like that.
Well, no, I actually know people at New York 1. It's a consideration.
I just thought I would throw... See, sometimes I can be an idea man, too.
Oh, I trust that you always are. Not that you can be, you are.
Thank you.
Well, of course.
Well, that's because Hashem speaks through me. I didn't even know what that... Anywho, it has been just such a joy talking with Sherry Eaker. You can see her in person on March 4th at the Gotham Comedy Club. 6:30 in the evening is when the Bistro Awards begin. For more information, what's the website again?
BistroAwards.com.
BistroAwards.com. Do everybody check that out. And everybody, please thank with me for the joy, for the fun of this conversation, with the delightful... But last question, what was your Hebrew name?
Probably Sarah. I don't know.
Oh, you did? What, were you bat mitzvah, or they didn't do that back?
Oh, no, I said before, no,
Yeah.
I didn't go to Hebrew school. I wasn't. I find myself to be more religious now. Now I go to a congregation for the holidays.
Good.
I observe the holidays on my own. So
The Jewish holidays, right?
That if I'm ever out your way, I will be welcome to your congregation.
Well, unless you're preaching for Yahweh, but yes, if you're coming out my way, your way, yes, that would be lovely. Sherry Bat Ira, it has been such a joy to have you in the neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Thank you, Rabbi Sol.
Doctor,
bye for now.
I should live so long. Shalom.